I'm Professor Stephanie, and in this video I want to talk about applied problem solving. And this is when we are selecting fabrics, for example, and we're using the elements of art and the principles of design. It's a little different than reading a chapter, learning the vocabulary words, and taking a multiple choice test. All of that's very linear. We're actually going to make decisions as we go along and shift and change our ideas, and at the very end have what we like. Not knowing exactly what it's going to look like when we get started. So I'm actually going to work with this image. I'm going to think about the sofa, the two pillows, the side chair, the draperies, and the dog bed. So I have several things that we're going to talk about in reference to selecting materials. So I have a group here of materials that have a combination of patterns, that have unity of color. So I'm going to have unity of color, variety of texture, and patterns. So I took some time, made some selections, and I want to start with the largest fabric, which is going to be the sofa, and the draperies. We've got two large fabric pieces here, and I'd like to use the simpler one. This actually has some texture, linear texture, and some little dots. I have two different colors here because I wasn't sure of different values. I have a light and a dark. And I also have a really fun silky, which again, new texture, which I'm going to have for the drapery treatment. So this is where I'm going to get started. Notice it's not very exciting, a little on the boring side. So here comes the patterns. And I actually have a really fun pattern here that's bringing pinks, oranges, yellows, and greens together. I think that works out perfectly in there. So this could be a pillow, or it could be the fabric that's on the side chair there. And I'm going to look carefully. Remember, I had two choices here. I actually think the darker is going to be better. So now we've got 1, 2, 3. I think I could probably also, I'm going to play around here with my video. 1, 2, 3. Now, I've got a couple pillows and I've got a dog bed. So I was wondering about, I've got two leathers here. One's very smooth, one's kind of bumpy. If I could choose one of those for the dog bed. And then I've got a small plaid, a large plaid, and a stripe for pillows. So I'm wondering, and I might even push this down a little bit. I think this will be fine for that side chair. So wow, wouldn't it be fun to pull in a stripe like that? For pillows, maybe both those pillows, because I'm wondering if having, well, I really wanted to jazz it up. Those could be, ooh, or maybe I'll pull this one out. And I'll tell you why I pulled that one out. Maybe you saw it too. The yellows in here work out very, very well. So that was better than what was happening with this. So notice, as I made decisions, I've got 2, 4, 5 finalists, and I have 4 that didn't make the cut. But I didn't make this decision one at a time. I started to put some things together and then made my mind up as I went along. So this is what I'm talking about in reference to applied problem solving. I can also tell you that fabric, and we think of the cost of fabric. So I was working with a client with a budget. The larger fabrics we need most of, not the larger fabric, but the ones we need most of are the least expensive. We have a solid that, let's say, is $20 a yard. We could say the sofa is $25 a yard. And then the one that's going to be the most expensive has the pattern, it's an upholstery material. Let's say that's $50 a yard, but notice where we're putting it. We're putting it on a smaller chair, so we need yet less yardage. And then we have a little bit of leather that we put in there and a little bit of that stripe. That's probably just a yard here and a yard there. So I'm thinking about not only the design but the budget, and things that need a lot of fabric. I would probably not put the most expensive fabric on there. I'd put the least expensive if I can. So I'm sort of a push-pull there. All right, let me try this one more time. I've got same scenario, same image we're going to work with, because oftentimes when you work with a client, you want to have a couple of different flavors to work with. So what I've got here is more golds and burnt reds. And right away I know where I want to start. I want to start with the Drapery treatment is going to be this lovely stripe material that has brought many of the colors together, the greens, the reds, the golds, the browns. So right away I've got a nice start there with an inspirational fabric. It's linear, it's a stripe. Stripes do great on drapery treatment. If you can imagine how those stripes would fall in there, it's a light material, so that's going to work out wonderful. I'm wondering with my choices this time if I would put the leather, which has a texture to it, so I'm pushing the texture. This is a silky texture, this is actually a bumpy texture on that sofa. This might be a little bit higher budget than the last one we did, but that might be, that would be something to have a conversation around with the client. Here's our side chair. I think that would be fantastic. And now I'm back to pillows, and I don't have a lot of choice here. I've got a zigzag. That might work out fine. And instead of having two different pillows, the plaid, I could think about that, although I think that stripe is pretty strong. This has a little bit of a linear feel to it. And I think this pattern, these two patterns don't particularly go together well. I think I've got a better choice there. So again, I'm making decisions as I go along. I'm flexible. I'm thinking about the budget. I'm thinking about variety of pattern, unity of color, very important, and lots of good textures in there. So these are some good ways that you're going to be in the design world applying your principles and element theory to problem solving. And that's a very important aspect, and as I said, it's a little bit different than that, learn a vocabulary word and take a test. So be thinking about ways that you're going to be flexible and working through problems with applying what you know. Thank you.